series. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to show the wonderful art project that we have today. To bring in Christmas, we are doing a Christmas light themed art project. This is supposed to be a sun catcher that you can put in a window or in front of a light, and it shines brightly through with all of our wonderful colors. So today, if you want to put an apron on, you can to keep yourself clean. And if you want to, you can also put a tablecloth on your table to keep your table safe from our glue today. Alright, so the supplies we're going to be using. We are going to need some wax paper. We are going to need some tissue paper, so the stuff that you put in with your presents that you get. You can get it in sheets, and then with those sheets you're going to want to cut or rip them up into little pieces. We're going to need some construction paper today. And you're also going to need glue, a glue bottle specifically, not a glue stick. We want a glue bottle, a paintbrush, a Sharpie, scissors, and then if you have it optional, you can use a hole punch as well. And then with all these supplies, we're going to make this wonderful art project this week. I'm so excited. I can't wait to show you. So let's go ahead and get started. Get all of our stuff, and I hope you're ready to get creating.
Alright, so to start we need wax paper. I'm going to go ahead, open it up. You need roughly about 1 foot. It can be a little less. It's up to you however big you want your Christmas light wall hanger or sun catcher to be. There we go, and it doesn't matter if the edges are perfect or not because we're going to be working in the very middle. I'm going to be bringing over this white sheet of paper over here to put underneath my wax paper. Since the wax paper is transparent, you won't be able to see what I'm doing unless I have this underneath. You can do this as well if you want to try to be a little more clean, but this is totally optional. Alright, so what I'm going to be starting with is our tissue paper. I have it here already pre-cut. This is just tissue paper from the wrapping section. You can simply rip it apart and have some fun doing that. Or you can take your scissors and you can cut sections into little squares, and that process might go just a little bit faster doing that. It's your choice, whichever one you want to do. Next we need a glue bottle, and we also need a paintbrush. Choose a paintbrush that has a little bit of a bigger end so that way you can cover a little more space. We also need a Sharpie. Alright, so we're going to start with our Sharpie first. We are going to be making a teardrop shape, or whatever shape you want your Christmas light to be. So I'm going to start here at the point, go from a little bit thin to this really big curve at the bottom. So a little bit of a curve. Doesn't matter if it's perfect, you can always look at a photo reference or what I did if you're unsure of what to do. So now that we have it drawn, the next step is taking our glue bottle. We're going to open it up, and we're just going to cover a little section with our glue. You might want to wait a little bit, make sure that your Sharpie is dry, otherwise the glue bottle might spread some of the Sharpie around. So we'll take our paintbrush, and we'll just kind of brush out all the little spots for our glue. If you feel like your glue is a little thick, you always can add a little bit of water. Alright, so now that that's kind of spaced out, I'm going to start taking some of my tissue paper. So you can always choose tissue papers that's all the same color, so your Christmas light is one color, or you can do completely random colors and do whatever you want. I think I'm going to do more of the random colors. This process is completely up to you and how you want to do it. I think some of my pieces were a little big, so I'm going to rip them up as I work and start choosing my colors randomly. As you start putting them down, you always want to continue layering with the glue, putting it right back on top, making sure all the paper is nice and smooth. Alright, as you work with the tissue paper, you're going to want to make sure that you go over the edges of the lines that you made. Okay? This way, if you go over, you'll guarantee that you have filled in every space that you need for your Christmas light. So if we take a look, I'm following the line pretty closely, but always go over just a little bit to make sure that you have enough space and you won't have any white areas or any blank spaces in the middle. So again, I'm going to be working more section by section. So always layering on top of my old one, but always putting down some glue in some new spaces. I'm going to be layering my paper right on top of each other, and sometimes I'll have layers of 2 or 3 thick. It's whatever you want it to be. I wouldn't go any thicker than that, but remember always to add more glue if you're going to have more layers. That will guarantee everything will stay nice and smooth. I'm really trying to mix up all of my colors and trying to have a nice variety of colors and shapes and sizes. So I'm kind of ripping the paper as I go. By this point, my fingers are getting a little sticky, so if you find your fingers are getting a little messy, you always can take a little break and wipe your fingers off with a baby wipe or with a damp paper towel. Awesome! So I think I finished using my tissue paper. So the next step we are going to do is we are going to take our glue from our glue bottle and we are going to cover the whole thing, every bit. This will make it all nice and smooth, and we are going to be putting a layer on top of it. So we need to make sure everything is covered in glue. If you feel like your glue is really thick, you can always add a little bit of water and mix it in a separate dish and put that right on top, and that can work just as fine. I'm going to carefully brush it all across, make sure it's nice and smooth and that I have glue in every part. Awesome! I think that's perfect! So what we are going to do is we are going to get our wax paper out again, and you just need to cut or rip off another piece that's about the same size, or that at least covers the space that you have glue. So I'm going to carefully put it right on top, and I'm going to start using my hands and I'm going to rub over the whole thing. I'm going to make sure it's nice and smooth, no bubbles, no wrinkles, and make sure it looks like it's sticking down. If you feel like it's not sticking down and there might be some edges that are coming back up, you can always grab the glue bottle or your paintbrush and kind of smooth that out and glue it down. Awesome! So we'll let it dry just a little bit and then we'll continue working. Alright, so the next thing we are going to be doing is we're going to be following this line, and we are going to take our scissors and we're going to be cutting it out. Instead of going directly on the line, I'm actually going to leave a little bit of a gap just to make sure I'm safe. So I'm going to take my scissors, and as you can see, I'm leaving a little bit of gap. So that's why it's always good to put the tissue paper over the lines, right? Going off all the edges. So I'm going to follow my lines, leaving a little bit of extra space. And I'm going to cut the whole thing out. Awesome. Right now is a good time to double check, make sure all the edges are glued down and you don't need to go back in and add that anymore. So the next thing we are going to do is grab our colored paper. I decided I'm going to go with black. You can choose any color you want, but I just want it to look like a nice black outline. I'm going to put my paper on top, take my Sharpie, and I'm going to just follow the lines of our Christmas light shape, our little light bulb. I'm just going to follow all the lines and leaving a nice mark so that way we know what to do when we need to cut. Perfect! So the next thing we need to do is we just need to simply take our scissors and follow this line so that way we have our little outline created for our Christmas light bulb. I'm going to start at the point and then work my way around. I've cut out lots of things in my lifetime, but you can always pause this video if you need some extra time to cut or to create your Christmas light. Whatever it might be, don't be afraid to pause the video. I'm going to move my scraps to the side, but don't throw it away. Just scoot it off to the side. Awesome. So now we can see that we have it perfectly lined up. But we need to see our stuff in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Sharpie again. And I'm going to leave about 2 finger width a little outline across the whole shape. So if you want to take a look, I'm going to make a shape following the same lines we had before. And I'm going to leave a nice little gap. This will give us a good outline and a nice frame for our Christmas bulb. Perfect. So as a quick reminder, we are going to be cutting out that middle part and the rest we're going to keep. So we're going to take our scissors and we need to cut that. The easiest way to get this done is we are going to kind of bend it over, not crease it. We don't want any folds. We just want to simply kind of bend it over, take the tip of our scissors and just give it a little cut so that way you can have a nice little hole for your scissors to go into. Now you should have access and you should be able to go all around the shape and cut out that little center piece for our Christmas light. Awesome! So let's see. Let's put this right on top and see what that looks like. Oh, I like that a lot. That looks amazing. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to glue it down. If you wanted to, you can do the outline on both sides. I'm just going to do the one side for now. So I'll show you how to glue this down, and then if you want to, you can always repeat this process again. So if we look, we want to be very careful. If we put it on top like this, we have to flip it over, make sure we're gluing on the right side. I'm going to go all across the edges and then we'll flip it back over and put that on top. So I'm going to take my glue bottle and I'm going to just do little dots across the whole thing. This will help so that way we don't have any glue squishing off all the edges because we don't really want that. So I'm going to take just little dots across my whole piece. So that way it should be well and glued. So now I'm going to take it, flip it over, and line it up the best I can. Going to be very careful, take my time. Awesome. Press it down with your fingers. Make sure it's nice and smooth and glued down. Right now might be a good time to let it dry if you need to. Now if I'm looking over all the edges, I can see some of my edges aren't exactly perfect. So what I'm going to do to fix that is take my scissors and just carefully go across some of the edges that might be overlapping. So if I can see some of my wax paper underneath, I'll just kind of go across and kind of cut that little bit off. So that way it should be nice and smooth. Awesome. So one last thing to do. We are going to grab those scraps. Remember I said not to throw them away. Gonna grab the scraps. Gonna just choose one little edge. We are going to make that little socket that goes on the end of our Christmas light bulb. Gonna grab my marker and just measuring by eyesight, I'm going to just cut a little rectangle or make a mark for a rectangle for the bottom of our Christmas bulb. Carefully cut it out of our craft paper. And there we go. We can see where it's going to layer. So I'm going to just take the glue bottle and then add a couple dots or a line of glue to the bottom where we want it to be glued down. Press it down with your fingers. Make sure it's all nice and smooth and it's all glued down. Awesome. So it might need to dry a little bit, but before we're finished, I'm actually going to grab one more thing. I'm going to grab a little hole punch. So if we take this and we punch a little hole in the middle, this will create a spot that you can string and put some string onto it. So you can hang it up in front of your windows, on your doors, wherever it might go. This will be an easy way to hang it up, and then you can put a little string through it. Awesome!
Oh my goodness, this looks amazing. You guys did such an amazing job. Thank you so much for joining me this week at Art Me Party at Home. Remember, you can find a fun new art workshop here every Wednesday around noon that you can do at home with your family and friends. Remember, just like your art projects, stay perfectly imperfect and artistically fabulous. Bye everyone!